Hey guys, this is North back again with another video. Today's video, I'm coming to you with my top 10 self-discoveries. Now, these are just fragrances that I actually found on my own through going in the stores and testing. These are not fragrances that I blind bought or ones that I saw on Fragrantica and it said, it reminds you of this, or if you like this, you might like that, or I did not find it based on any YouTube videos. These are just fragrances that I ended up loving just based on the old method of going into shops and smelling them. So let's see what I have. Now, these are just fragrances that I picked up myself, again, by just going in and sniffing fragrances. Most of them I have no idea of or even heard of before. I'm always, even to this day, I'm still pretty apprehensive on trying new brands that I haven't heard of. Like, hey, I haven't heard this on anybody's YouTube channel, so it must not be good, or things like that. So these are some of the fragrances that I just put my apprehensions behind me and I went on ahead and smelled them out, and they ended up being winners. They are not in any particular order. The first fragrance I want to mention is from the house of Bvlgari, and this one is called Kobraa. Now, Kobraa is rumored to have been discontinued, one, and then two, that it is supposed to be making a comeback. This Bvlgari line, which is called the Legime collection. So all of them are, they have different gemstones on the top. And things like that, so they're hard to tell apart. They all have different names, so it's almost hard to just even by the name figure out what the scent may smell like. And the way I came up on this one was, there's various different spots that I go to in Kuwait to pick up fragrances from. Some of them are actual, retail stores, Debenhams or Harvey Nichols or Bloomingdale's, but other times I go to places like the Big Souk. That's where I got the majority of my fragrances from, or even various other smaller shops, and that's how I came up on Kobraa. Now, when you go into these shops, they'll have all of their fragrances displayed. They seem to keep the good stuff hidden. So when certain clients come in, like myself, I'll ask them, what else does he have? Does he have any privés or any exclusives or things like that? And he happened to just bust this out. I had the rose one, which I can't think of at the moment. If I think of it, I'll put it up on the screen. But I had since sold that one. That one was good. It was a rose and incense fragrance, but it wasn't, just an absolute love. But when I smelled this one, I was like, that's when I got back on my incense kick, and that's how I found Kobraa. Now I was able to get from him, I've mentioned this before, I was able to get a tester bottle of this. So there's a 100 ml tester bottle. There's only 3 notes listed, which are geranium, frankincense, and oud. This one was released in 2020. This is an elite incense-based fragrance. It's in my definitely in my top 5. This is just like a very regal incense-based fragrance. If you haven't checked this one out, please do. I hope it does get re-released so people have a chance to smell it, because this one is super slept on, even though many people don't talk about this particular line too much. So that's Bvlgari Kobraa. Now, I said these are in no particular order, but this next fragrance I want to mention is probably my top self-discovery of all time. If you know anything about me, then you'll probably know what this is, and this is Chypre Palatin. Chypre Palatin without the bust. This is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. This is Chypre Fruity. This one, it was released in 2012. Some of the notes on Chypre Palatin are Aldehydes, Labdanum, Clementine, Rose, Plum, Iris, Tolu, Balsam, Oakmoss, Castoreum, and Benzoin are some of the notes. And from this one, again, every time I smell it, it just gives me a uplift. It makes you feel good. I really need to wear this on a consistent basis, but I don't want to get tired of the smell. I just really love this one. This is the very first fragrance that I believe I picked up that I knew that was a Chypre, because it had Chypre in the name. As I mentioned before, usually when fragrances have a particular note or a style in the name, for me, they tend to don't live up to that name. But this one is just beautiful. Some people consider it to be like an amber, but it is, it has some of those same aspects like Mitsuko or Roche's Femme, things such as that, but it's on its own another plane because it dries down to this almost ambery scent, but it still has that Chypre DNA with the citrus and the Labdanum and the Oakmoss. And so I love this one. This is my greatest self-discovery of all time, Chypre Palatin. Moving on. Now, usually when I make these lists, I tend to end up gravitating more towards darker scents. So I wanted to, since spring is coming up, summer will be right around the corner, especially here. So I wanted to mention some warm weather scents that I found on my own. And this one comes from the House of Note Premier Note. And this one is Orange Calabria. Orange Calabria I just found in one of my guys' shops that sells niche fragrances, and was just really wanted to try to find a good citrus-based scent. And this one, Orange Calabria, is considered a citrus aromatic. Some of the notes on it are bitter orange, Petitgrain, orange blossom, white musk, sandalwood, and heliotrope. There's no release date on this one, but this, to me, as far as my collection, this is the fragrance that has the most realistic orange peel and orange note in it. I love it. The price isn't bad on it. It's around $100 retail here. I got it for half of the price. So since I've used, almost half of it, since I'm able to maybe still pick it up for a decent price, I may pick up another bottle, since during the summer you do I personally go through a lot of it, just trying to smell myself. So Orange Calabria from Premier Note. Moving on. The next fragrance I want to mention is from the House of Larchester Parfums, and this one is called Encens Asakusa. Again, this is another fragrance that I fell in love with. Just walking in and testing things. This particular shop, I can't think of the name at the moment, but this is another place that sells niche fragrances. This isn't a gray marketplace, but they had a 20 or 30% off. And this is when I was still on my deep in my incense kick. So Encens Asakusa is considered an amber woody. It was released in 2017. Some of the notes on it are frankincense, iris, white musk, myrrh, violet, cypress, and red berries. And this one is incense with iris. That's pretty much what you get from it. It is a very good incense-based fragrance. It's definitely in my top 5, I believe. This is one to me that represents the best of this particular brand, because each one is named after a particular orchestra song. But this one you can't go wrong with if you love incense-based fragrances, and this is another one that I found just sampling and discovering things on my own. Moving on. Next up is from the House of Guerlain, and this one to me is the most slept on Guerlain in existence, and this one is Chants Aromas. All right, or Songs of Aromas. I was watching one video. The young lady was saying that the vintage one is a lot better than this most recent one. I don't know what year it's from. It might be 2009, 2011, but now it comes in the newer bottles, the Mitsuko bottles, and these are the older B bottles. This is one that I had in my most recent video where I talked about having backups. I do have a backup of this. This one is a Chypre floral. It was released in 1962. Notes on it are aldehydes, citrus, honeysuckle, jasmine, Ylang-Ylang, sandalwood, benzoin, and vanilla are some of the notes. And the way I came up on this one, there is another shop in another place that was just they'll have discounted perfumes. You'll go by these places that are called jamias, which means like a community center where a grocery store will be, and they'll have outside the grocery store in the mall part, they'll have these little perfume shops. So I was just smelling things. I kind of got into Guerlain, and then I sprayed this on my hand. And while I was smelling it, I was like, it smells familiar. It smells familiar, like something that I like. And what it was that Chypre type of DNA. So I picked up on it. And if you haven't smelled this one, you should definitely check it out, especially if you like Chypre and if you like Guerlain just in general. You don't hear people talking about this. I remember one of the guys that's really into Guerlain. He just came out with his own fragrance line that I do want to check out. I can't think of his first name off of the bat, but it's from Use, smells good. And I asked him when he was on live if he had this one, if he had Chants Aromas. And he said, no, I've never even smelt it. And I just was blown away because to me, this is one of the best fragrances that they have. let's keep it moving. The next fragrance is from the house of Tom Ford. This is one that is definitely going on the back burner for me. This house I haven't been checking for in a while because most of them are discontinued and I've just haven't been searching for them. But this was one of the discontinued ones that I found for a great deal, and this one is London. Now with London, with some of these that I got from the gray market, if a tester bottle is available, I'd rather have a tester than have the full presentation. And this one, they did have a tester available. It did have a tester available. And when I smelled this one, what I liked about it is the animalic facets in it. And most of the animalics come from notes that are not animalic. So let's go through them. This one's considered a woody spicy. London is considered a woody spicy. It was released in 2013. Some of the notes on it are cumin, saffron, cardamom, black pepper, coffee, coriander, labdanum, oud, birch, and cedar. So the animalic notes that come from this usually come from the spices, the cumin, also the oud, and then you have a little bit of coffee and pepper in it. So it is just, if you don't like slightly animalic fragrances, you won't like this, but this one is just a hodgepodge of different things. And then when I talked about this before, I talked about how this might remind me of London. I've never been, but because London is a cosmopolitan, multicultural city, that, you know, there's a lot of Indians there, a lot of Chinese there, there's a lot of Jamaicans there, and they all use all these different spices in their food. And plus, you know, oud is pretty popular as well. So to me, this just encapsulated that, and I just love it. You know, this is really slept on privé or private line collection from Tom Ford, and this is London. Moving on. Next up is from the house of Javoy Paris. This is one I've talked about before. It is one of my favorite rose-based fragrances of all time, and this one is Rose Millésine. So Rose Millésine is just considered a floral fragrance. It was released in 2017. The notes on this are clove, candied apples, centifolia rose, white musk, and Bulgarian rose. So this one is centered around the centifolia rose. That's what you get the majority of. It's also called the cabbage rose. And it, to me, in my collection, is the most jammy rose that you can find right now. It isn't the only Javoy that I own, but I didn't like the house. I didn't fall in love with the house as much as I thought that I would, based on, you know, how many people had been talking about them in the community. But all in all, people really don't talk about this one. Have you tried Rose Millésine? Let me know, please, in the comments. But this one is one of my greatest self-discoveries in my collection. Moving on. Next up is a fragrance from a house that I am so sick that they don't carry anymore here in Kuwait, and this is from the house of Dusita, and this one is called Isra. Isra is, I believe there's 3 extraits. There's Oud Infini, there's this one, and there's one other one that I can't think of. So when they did have them in, I was in another shop. They had this brand and they were 50% off. So I was smelling all of them, seeing if any of them had, you know, tickled my fancy, and none of them really did, even though there were a number of them that had been spoken about online, but I had not come across Isra at all. So this one is considered an aromatic. It's more like almost like a barbershop type scent, and it was released in 2016. Notes on it are sage, pine needles, tobacco, coumarin, bourbon vetiver, and oakmoss. And this is, again, this is up there with one of my all-time favorite finds. It's not notes that I've, you know, or even a style of fragrance that, you know, I generally gravitate to. Usually it's like incense or ambery type scents, and now like with the Chypre, but this is like a Fougere. So it's a little bit corniferous. You know, it doesn't have lavender in it, but it just has this like sweet, slightly tobacco. I don't get a lot of tobacco of it. What I get is a lot of like slightly corniferous with some sweet notes. The coumarin, which comes from the tonka bean, so it's almost vanillic. It's just a beautiful, beautiful scent. I'm glad this one isn't discontinued because Oud Infini has been discontinued. So remember, this one is an extrait de Parfum. So if you like extraits, you should pick this one up. I'm thinking about maybe trying to maybe get it back a bottle if I ever come across it. But you know, that's wishful thinking. Moving on. All right, 2 more. The next one is another summer scent that I wanted to mention, and this one comes from the house of Abdul Samad Al Quraishi. This is from their Wheelhouse collection, and this one is called Bergamot and Mandarin. So Bergamot and Mandarin, there's no release date on this. The notes that they say it has are bergamot, mandarin, sandalwood, and musk. But what I like about this is that it is a citrus based scent, but it's probably the citrus scent in my collection, because it says bergamot and mandarin, which are like 2 citrus, but it's so deep and such long lasting. This is a very heavy summer scent. This is something that will stay on you. I was sort of like whatever on it before, not really, because it's like, you know, it's citrus. And I remember wearing it at home. I had a different bottle. It was about half empty. My uncle, he said, you know, you smell really nice. And, you know, I had my bottle with me. I said, you know, you can have it because, you know, I can pick it up anytime. And when I got back to Kuwait, that's what I did. This is a fresh fragrance, but it's a citrus-based fragrance that's going to last all day long. I can't think of another summer scent that is as heavy and citrus forward that lasts as long as this. So that's why I had to put this one on the list. Of course, they had the whole Wheelhouse, which has, you know, has the Orientals and the Aromatic and things like that. So there's one for all different types of style. And this was one that I, you know, really wanted to pick up on, because I wanted to pick up a citrus-based scent that was from a Middle Eastern brand that was original. And that's what I did. So if you haven't had a chance to put your nose on this one, if you have any Abdul Samad Al Quraishis in your area, I would definitely check this out if you want like an extremely long-lasting summer scent. Moving on to the last one. And the last fragrance that I want to mention that was a self-discovery is from the house of Rogue Perfumery. The way I found out about this one was because I ordered the Discovery set from Lucky Scent some time ago. So I ordered the Discovery set. This one is called Flora and Fauna. This one is a all natural fragrance, he says. Now, the thing about this one, before I forget, is that it is unfortunately discontinued, which I didn't know until I was like coming up with the list of fragrances that I wanted to put on this list. This only is a 30 ml. It's more than half gone. What I think I'm going to do is just like try to hang on to it and see how much it'll like macerate, you know, over time before I get rid of it, before I use it all, because I can't buy it again. And this one's a Chypre Fruity. This has apricot, oakmoss, amber, bergamot, civet, labdanum, patchouli are some of the notes. And what I liked about this one is the opening is just beautiful. It's an all natural fragrance, so it does transition. The opening on it I really love, so that lasts on your clothes like a really long time, about 7-8 hours. But on the skin, it transitions and it like dries down to almost like a ambery type of scent. But this is a really good one. If you ever, I haven't found any website that actually has a bottle of this left. I didn't know it was, like I said, discontinued or sold out at this time. So the rumor is that it, you know, it's hard to find the ingredients to continue to make this one. So that's it. Those are 10 of my top self-discoveries from my collection. There are more than 10, but I wanted to just make this type of video for myself and for other people out there to just like get your fears to the side and just check out fragrances that you normally wouldn't, especially ones that you've never heard of before, and just give fragrances a chance, and you might fall in love with them. And then for me, I feel a sense of, you know, almost like accomplishment that I was able to like just, you know, find certain things on my own and bring them to people and enjoy them in my own collection, enjoy them for myself. So please let me know in the comments, which fragrances do you love that you have found on your own without any help from the internet or YouTube? Please let me know. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one, guys. Peace.